the slave who took down Rome's most powerful army, an epic tale of rebellion. In 73 BC, a slave armed with kitchen knives just humiliated the most powerful military force in human history. Spartacus didn't just break free from slavery. He created a powerful force that nearly toppled the Roman Empire. Spartacus, a Thracian warrior turned slave, is forced to fight for Roman entertainment. But this isn't just any gladiator. This is a man who once commanded troops, who understood military strategy, who had tasted freedom and would never forget its flavor. Picture this: Capua, 73 BC, the most brutal gladiator training facility in the Roman world. The conditions were hellish. Gladiators were fed barely enough to survive, chained at night, and forced to kill each other for the cheers of Roman crowds. Quietly, methodically, he identified the strongest, most desperate gladiators. These weren't just gladiators. They were warriors from conquered nations, each carrying the rage of their people's defeat, and shepherds who knew every mountain pass in southern Italy. Spartacus divided his forces into specialized units: cavalry, infantry, scouts, and engineers. Glaber was a politician, not a warrior, and he underestimated everything about Spartacus. He established supply lines, set up training camps, and created a command structure that would have impressed Roman generals. Using vines and ropes, his men rappelled down the supposedly unclimbable cliffs and attacked the Romans from behind. Within months, his 78 gladiators had become 10,000 warriors. Spartacus wasn't just free, he was recruiting an army. Spartacus and 78 gladiators armed themselves with kitchen knives and makeshift weapons. They didn't head for the nearest exit. They headed for the armory. Towns began opening their gates willingly. The Roman narrative of superiority was crumbling. He did something no Roman could comprehend. He showed mercy to prisoners, freed captured slaves, and treated conquered cities with respect. Citizens were fleeing the city. The invincible Roman legions had been humiliated by gladiators and shepherds. The unthinkable was happening. Rome might actually fall. Military logic said attack. His heart said escape. Men who would rather die free than live as slaves. He was capturing Roman equipment, training former slaves in Roman military tactics, and turning their own weapons against them. The student had become the master. Men who had nothing left to lose. Spartacus wanted to lead his people to freedom beyond the Alps. This split would prove fatal. The Senate panicked and sent both consuls, Gellius and Lentulus, with 4 legions combined. This wasn't a slave rebellion. This was an existential threat to the Roman state. They turned to Marcus Licinius Crassus, the richest man in Rome, and gave him unlimited resources. His body was never found. Some say Crassus had it secretly cremated to prevent it from becoming a shrine. You defeat him with overwhelming force, superior logistics, and absolute brutality. Roman invincibility was a myth, and everyone knew it. The Senate was traumatized. Citizens questioned everything. The Republic was wounded in ways that would never fully heal. It was meant to be a warning. Instead, it became a monument to the fact that Rome could be defeated. He would winter in southern Italy, then decide in spring. It was one mistake that would cost him everything. For over 2,000 years, his name has meant resistance to tyranny. From the French Revolution to modern civil rights movements, Spartacus represents the unbreakable human spirit. It showed that the oppressed could organize, fight, and win. Spartacus defeated them separately, using classic military tactics: divide and conquer. Because sometimes, the greatest victory isn't winning the war. It's proving that the fight is possible. He raised 8 legions, implemented decimation to restore discipline, and built a wall across the entire Italian peninsula to trap Spartacus. Spartacus? He was planning something else entirely. Cilician pirates promised to transport Spartacus's army to Sicily and abandon them for Roman gold. Trapped against Crassus's wall, Spartacus attempted a breakout. Most accepted their fate. These weren't just desperate slaves anymore. They were a disciplined fighting force that moved like a scythe through southern Italy. Here's what makes this incredible. Spartacus wasn't planning a simple escape. He was recruiting. Spartacus fought like a demon, cutting through Roman lines trying to reach Crassus himself. Witnesses said he fought with supernatural fury, killing centurions with his bare hands when his weapons broke. Instead of hiding in the mountains like every other slave rebellion, he did something unprecedented. He built a professional army. His inner circle included Crixus, a massive Gaul who could break necks with his bare hands, and Enemos, a German who fought with the fury of a berserker. The moment came during a feast day when security was relaxed. They sent Gaius Claudius Glaber with 3,000 men to crush this minor slave uprising. Within hours, they had real weapons, horses, and something far more dangerous: hope. Word spread through the countryside like wildfire. Here's where Spartacus proved he wasn't just a gladiator. He was a military genius. Glaber's entire force was destroyed, and Spartacus now had Roman weapons, armor, and most importantly, Roman military reputation was bleeding. His recruitment strategy was brilliant. He targeted 3 groups: escaped slaves burning for revenge, impoverished farmers crushed by Roman taxes. But numbers meant nothing without organization. Rome's response was predictably arrogant. Spartacus was proving that slaves could be better rulers than their masters. Glaber trapped the slave army on Mount Vesuvius, thinking he had them cornered. But Spartacus turned the trap into an ambush. The result? Complete annihilation. Spartacus had a choice: march on Rome while it was weak, or head for the Alps and freedom. Victory bred victory. After Mount Vesuvius, Spartacus's army exploded to 40,000 and 60,000 and 70,000 warriors. Rome sent Verinius with 2 legions. Spartacus destroyed them both. Here's the terrifying part. Spartacus wasn't just winning battles. But Spartacus's greatest victory wasn't military. It was psychological. This wasn't barbarism. This was civilization. Meanwhile, Rome was in chaos. The Senate was in emergency session. Here's where the story takes its tragic turn. The slave army was divided. Crixus wanted to stay and fight, to burn Rome to the ground. Against his better judgment, Spartacus chose compromise. The Romans finally understood what they were facing. Crassus wasn't just wealthy. He was ruthless. But Crassus understood something the other commanders missed. You don't defeat Spartacus with honor. The end came not through glorious battle, but through betrayal and desperation. The final battle was a massacre. When the dust settled, Spartacus lay dead among his warriors. Rome's victory was Pyrrhic. 6,000 captured slaves were crucified along the Appian Way, a 120-mile line of crosses stretching from Rome to Capua. Crassus got his triumph, but the psychological damage was permanent. Spartacus lost the war, but he won something more important. He proved that empires could bleed. His rebellion inspired slave revolts across the Mediterranean. More than that, Spartacus became a symbol that would outlast Rome itself. A slave with kitchen knives didn't just take on an empire, he changed history.